Good morning. My name is Joyce. I am a volunteer health advocate for the Healthcare Support Association of America. The Healthcare Support Association of America is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to improving the lab results of its members. Our motto is Help the Doctor Helping You. Today's presentation will be by the founder and research director for the association, Mr. Jonathan Jones. Mr. Jones has traveled extensively all around the United States for more than 2 decades, lecturing both to laymen and to doctors on the value of a strong immune system and the role that glutathione plays as the body's master antioxidant. He has a YouTube channel where every Sunday at 5 p.m. he live streams interviews of world-renowned scientists like Dr. Prasad, Chief Science Officer for Engage Global. His theme today is Getting a Better Outcome with Cancer. This presentation will be live by video conference, so please direct your attention to the monitors. Please note, after the presentation, there will be an opportunity to ask questions, so please jot your questions down during the presentation.
Questions from the presentation. So welcome to you, Jonathan Jones.
Okay, doing a little bit of a sound check right now. To confirm that we're able to hear, and I hear it resonating back through the phone system. So must be working very well. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be joining you right now. We have an audience that are also in attendance on Zoom, about a dozen so far, and just about as many being live streamed. So all around the country right now, folks are benefiting from this program. I'm promising not to make it too technical and to drag it out too long, but my goal here is to make sure that you folks do know. You come to know you get access to information that you otherwise may not be able to get access to, because there's brand new research that's out that I believe everyone needs to know about. We established the Healthcare Support Association of America because we realize that there's a number of things that take place that doctors would like to know about and would like to do, but sometimes their hands are tied. We interviewed a bunch of doctors and asked them what were the top 3 things that they would like from their patients. And almost all of them said the same thing. They said they would love it if their patients were compliant, meaning if they said for them to take 2 pills 3 times a day of whatever it is for 10 days, 15 days, or whatever, they'd like for them to comply with that. That's number 1. Number 2, they said that they would love it if their patients could clearly articulate to them what their problems are. In other words, where does it hurt? When does it hurt? Help them to kind of figure out what may be symptomatic that could lead to a proper, accurate diagnosis of the condition. The best doctors are really veterinarians, because they've got to figure out exactly what's wrong with this animal with absolutely no feedback whatsoever. But doctors would love it if they could get that from their patients. And then the most important thing they said was that they would love it if their patients were actively involved in their treatment and recovery, that they had some emotional and mental involvement. In other words, they were trying to get better and not just expecting the doctor to do everything. They wanted them to work along with them. And that's what we're offering for you today. We're offering for you to have at your disposal information, tools that will allow you, empower you to help the doctor that's helping you. Our focus today, though, is on cancer and getting a better outcome. We're not trying to say that we found the cure for cancer or anything crazy like that, because the fact of the matter is only the government can declare something to be a treatment or cure for disease. But we can tell you that the facts when it comes to cancer. So we're going to share that with you right now. What are the facts when it comes to cancer? And that's going to lead to introducing you to brand new information, new research by brilliant scientists that has uncovered a simple, inexpensive way for you and me and every other average person to be able to get a better outcome. Okay, so let's get started. Let's go back and then talk a little bit first about, the problem, the 800-pound gorilla in the room. The Center for Disease Control indicates that cancer is the second leading cause of death in the United States. Now, the gap is closing, unfortunately, meaning that the number of cancer deaths is closing in on the number of heart disease cases. In fact, up until 2019, 2020, heart disease was actually improving. The number of people dying from heart disease was starting to go down. But right now, all-cause mortality is on the rise. But cancer is still the second leading cause of death. The latest statistics show, though, that COVID that you see right here on the screen is the number 3 leading cause of death, has now been replaced by accident or unintentional injuries. Now, they put it really nicely here on the screen, but what that really is something called iatrogenics. Iatrogenics is medical mistakes, medical errors, and it's the third leading cause of death. So number 1, number 2, and number 3 should send shivers up and down your spine. Well, let's keep our attention on cancer. The top 10 cancers in this country are breast cancer, prostate cancer, right there at the top. And then you can see the rest of them along the left side of the screen. Very sobering. This next slide gives you the numbers. Starting from the bottom going up, breast cancer by far is the leading cancer in this country, followed by prostate cancer, lung and bronchitis, and then colon and rectal cancer, and then so on. It's terrifying to see that this is the outcome. And here we are now in the most powerful country in the world with the best technology in the world, and yet still, hundreds of thousands of people die every single year. This is the number of new cases. Let's go on to talk about the number of deaths. Here's the number of deaths. And once again, you can see the rate. Lung and bronchial cancers still outpace breast cancer and prostate cancer. But let's look at the numbers. The actual numbers themselves, going from the bottom up, still we're talking about in the 100,000 category. Starting with lung, then female, then prostate cancer, female breast cancer. So once again, the number of deaths in this country is just, it's very sobering when it comes to, when you look at the overall number of cases of cancer. And this was all reported by the CDC. And by the way, these statistics go back to 2020, and I'm not quite sure why we don't have more recent figures on their website, but 2021 has not been reported. 2022 has not been uploaded. 2023 has not been uploaded. But there have been reports that the numbers have increased substantially. In fact, the CDC has indicated that in some cases, especially all around the world, all-cause mortality has increased between 8 and 20%. All-cause mortality, and that includes cancer. What are the leading causes of cancer? Well, preventable cancers, the leading cause is smoking, followed closely by obesity, then alcohol, UV radiation, physical inactivity, and poor diet. And interesting that those items that are mentioned there are all within our control. There's something we can do to improve getting cancer in the first place. by just eliminating or adjusting these things in our lives. Draw your attention to the fourth one from the top, right behind alcohol, UV radiation. If you were listening to the recording at the beginning of the presentation, it pointed out a lot of, just sobering statistics about 5G radiation and its impact on our lives and on humanity. And the truth of the matter is, it is here to stay. The World Health Organization says that cell phones may cause cancer. So if you were to go to their website, you would see that they've been classified right in there. I think it's the same category as smoking. But if I ask for a show of hands, either present at the audience or digital hands on Zoom or those who are live streaming on YouTube right now, how many are willing to give up their cell phones for 24 hours? 1 week, 1 month, 1 year? I don't think that anyone's hands will go up. I don't see any on Zoom at all. So no one would be willing to give it up. I don't know if you're like me, but if I leave the house and I can be a mile or two away from the house or from the office and realize I left my cell phone, I don't care how late I am for the appointment, I'm going back to get it. We're attached to these devices from the hip. But look at the association, not that I'm making, but that scientists have made to the connection between our cell phones and the radiation that comes from them and cancers. And again, we're not trying to say that cell phones is the only thing that creates a problem, but it is certainly a contributing factor, or the radiation that is associated with the technology that leads to us having these great devices that we all depend on. How do they deal with cancer? Well, the research indicates that there's 5 major ways that cancer is responded to. Now, the medical community is in place primarily for intervention. There's not a huge amount with regard to the overall medical system that is geared toward prevention. And I've had doctors tell me that directly. Oftentimes, the diagnostic equipment that's used is designed to identify when a serious problem occurs so that a specific action can be taken. It's up to you to determine whether you're going to prevent something. If you realize you're going down a certain path, that you avoid going there. Now, I'm not trying to say that there's nothing that's being done to prevention, because women are encouraged to get annual mammogram. Men are encouraged to get colonoscopy. Everyone's encouraged to get colonoscopies. Men are encouraged to have the prostate examined. And so there's all kinds of things that are encouraged, because early detection is the key to a better outcome. But just as, setting aside or assuming that all that has been done, and yet still we get to the point where a person has come down with cancer, because that's happening every day. I mean, there are people right now that get mammograms every single day, and that are getting prostate exams every day, getting colonoscopies every day. That's happening all the time, and yet still the rate of cancer and the rate of death from cancers is still on the rise. How do we improve the outcome? So the number five treatments that right now are the actions that are taken when a person does get cancer. Surgery, obviously, that's to remove as much of the mass as can be found, because if they can get rid of the tumor, then that also gives a person a greater chance of being able to outlive what's trying to happen inside their body. Second, chemotherapy. That's designed to get what can't be seen. The goal is to kill as many cancer cells as possible, something that the doctor, even with all the magnifying equipment on his face, cannot see. You cannot see cells, all of them, because they're microscopic, but the chemotherapy is designed to kill them. Radiation, similar. Targeted therapies. And then finally, you see on the bottom there, immunotherapy. And that's the latest advances in technology right now has led to this whole new field called immunotherapy. And that's basically the pharmaceutical industries or the medical industry looking to invoke the power of your own immune system to aid in the fight against cancer. Now, that should make light bulbs go off for you, that even the medical system, the scientific community realizes the power of the human immune system. We all need to focus in on the power of the human immune system. Now, to back up just a little bit, there's a downside to most of the treatments that's taken right now. One of them, of course, is there's often side effects. Chemotherapy and radiation often have terrible, terrible, uncomfortable side effects. And many of them are mentioned right here. You can see them on the screen. The one that seems to be taking the edge off of these side effects that are not nearly as uncomfortable is immunotherapies. So once again, that should make light bulbs go off in our mind. Immunotherapies, that's going in the right direction. That's going in the right direction. And that brings us to brand new research. Brand new research that has been done by a brilliant gentleman by the name of Dr. Kedar Prasad. Dr. Prasad was the world's first radiation biology PhD. He took and completed a 4-year course in 3 years and became the first in the world to become a radiation biologist. He's since gone on to be awarded 10 US patents on micronutrients. This man's accolades are quite extensive. He was awarded millions of dollars by the Congress to do research for the US military. He's also partnered and worked with NASA. He's a gentleman who discovered the anti-cancer potency of vitamin E succinate. Now, if you're saying to yourself, well, I take vitamin E every day, why do I have cancer? Well, we're not talking about vitamin E. There's more than one type of vitamin E. The most common one is vitamin E acetate. But Dr. Prasad figured out that there were multiple types of vitamin E, and then he isolated the one that, oh, by the way, happens to be cytotoxic to cancer cells. Brilliant gentleman. He also discovered that butyric acid is an anti-cancer agent. Butyric acid comes from the fermentation of fibers in the gut. So there's certain probiotics and prebiotics that when your body processes them, they actually produce an anti-cancer agent. So it'd be really good to know what those things are. His credentials are quite extensive. He was a professor of University of Colorado School of Medicine for 30 years, director of cancer of the vitamin and cancer research area. He was also the former president of the International Society of Cancer and Nutrition. He was invited to be a member of the Royal Society of Medicine in London, UK, which is quite a big deal. He was also invited to be a member of the Nobel Peace Prize nominating committee for candidates in medicine. And to be quite honest with you, that one credential right there should displace everything and validate this man all by itself, because that you have to really have arrived to be in that category, to be invited to be on the Nobel Peace Prize nominating committee. He also, one of his mentors was Dr. Linus Pauling. So if you're familiar with Linus Pauling, then that would say something. When Linus Pauling was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his discovery, a huge part of his acceptance speech, he kept talking about the brilliance of Dr. Kedar Prasad, but that's another story. Among his many works, Dr. Prasad has authored some 33 books, and he's been published more than 250 times in peer-reviewed publications. There are more than 450 references to Dr. Prasad's published works on PubMed. PubMed is the official library of all medical doctors and journals in the United States. and he's mentioned in there some 450 times. By contrast, I've never been mentioned in any one of them. That should be funny. You should be laughing hysterically. Okay, I'm just kidding, but I'm serious. I've never been mentioned in any one of them. So, but Dr. Prasad, that just tells you just how brilliant and how amazing this man is. Here's a snapshot of his books, some of his books. Not all of them by a long shot, but you look across there, you see radiation all over the place. If you look closely, you see several of his books on cancer. He knows a little bit of something about cancer. Now, the latest research that Dr. Prasad has had published leads to the next portion of this discussion. I'm not going to do a deep dive into Dr. Prasad's research. I will touch on it. I'm going to tell you a few things. I'm going to show you some slides, and I'm not going to linger on those slides. We're just going to flash through them real quick just so that you will have been exposed to some of the particulars of his research. And at the end, I want you to pay careful attention to two slides where Dr. Prasad makes two significant statements. And the two significant statements is what will sum up this entire presentation for you. Okay? Now, I'm going to warn you that the next picture I'm going to show you, this is all in the name of education, but it will show something a little bit graphic, and for some people, seeing an open wound will be disturbing. So when I go to the next slide, you can turn your way from the screen, head away from the screen if you want to. That's up to you, but I'm letting you know in advance that there's going to be an open wound that will be displayed. Before we go into telling you these testimonials that I'm about to share with you, I'm going to share two with you now and one again later. All of this designed to just illustrate the point of what could happen and what has happened recently as a result of Dr. Prasad's research. The disclaimer: the FDA has not evaluated these statements. Testimonials are anecdotal. Results are atypical. What happens to one person may or may not happen to you. Neither the Healthcare Support Association of America, Engage Global, Dr. Prasad, Jonathan Jones, nor any authorized representatives are making claims that any supplements recommended will treat or cure any disease state. This presentation is for information and educational purposes only. It is not intended to be a substitute for a visit to your doctor. We recommend that you seek the competent medical advice of professionals that you trust. Now, I'm going to the next slide now. Here's a gentleman. This is one of the case studies. I'm going to show you two case studies right now. Observational cases. This gentleman's name is Rick. The date, August 2023. Diagnosis, basal cell carcinoma. Rick was recommended to have, I think it was 33 rounds of radiation to help resolve this problem. But he also decided, as suggested by one of his associates, to use Dr. Prasad's latest research and his formula. Look at what happened to Rick. Now, this is just November. The previous slide was August. This is Rick in November. Basal cell carcinoma and the treatment that he had. Look at them side by side now. Same person, same face, same, well, I was going to say the same wound, but I can't say that because you can barely even tell where it was. Now, what else you should be noticing is that even after he had the treatment of radiation, all of his hair is clearly still right where it was when it started. One of the side effects of chemotherapy and radiation is often hair loss, and it also creates major burns and does damage to healthy tissue. But you don't see evidence of that anywhere on Rick. All Rick did was add to his treatment Dr. Prasad's formula. I'm going to tell you now about a woman. Her name is Iris. Iris, diagnosed with breast cancer. This case goes back to 2020. And Iris came on one of our programs, and she had her camera on Zoom. And we captured the recording. Her treatment was surgery, 8 rounds of chemo, and 33 rounds of radiation. I'm pretty good at telling stories, but I decided to bring Iris's story, a recording of it, so that you could hear it from her in her own words. So if you just bear with me 1 second, I'd like to just let you hear Iris tell her own story.
I've heard the same thing. I've heard individuals say what they have done while taking chemo and radiation, and that their bodies were just phenomenal. And I've also heard Dr. Prasad say that microdaily makes any treatment better because it protects the good cells and makes the bad cells more susceptible to the treatment. So I think each person make a decision as to how they want to approach it. And I'd love to hear what what kind of results Iris has, because it may help somebody make a decision.
Yep. Here's Iris's.
Most of you know that I did have cancer. I think it was 2018. And I met I've been knowing Mr. Lord for a long time. But then, she had introduced me to the microdaily. So with God in prayer and Miss Levette, I decided that I would go ahead on and take the microdaily. And I did it before I had surgery. So I needed to get it in my system. So once I got it into my system, when I had my surgery, I did not have any pain. I did good. Then after that, I did 8 rounds of chemo. And chemo it's poison. It's a lot of poison that's going inside. Okay, didn't get sick one day because I was constantly taking my macrodaily, constantly. Then I did 33 rounds of radiation. Didn't get sick, didn't hurt. So now I'm on this thing called tamoxifen. It's the pills after cancer, and one of the side effects is the bones. I should be aching all over. But because, God has prepared me along with Ms. Levette to be great, of course, he allowed me to not have any pain whatsoever. And I go around, I talk to my clients about, a lot of them have blood pressure problems, all of these different problems. I'm like, you know what? I had cancer. And this microdaily, it attacked that cancer. And I tell you, I'm just grateful. And that's my testimony.
Well, Jeff,
There you have it.
So, but you heard Rick and Iris's story. You saw the pictures. Those are just 2 observational studies that give you an idea as to what can happen when Dr. Prasad's amazing formula is used in consort with conventional treatment. These individuals are not, paid to say any tell their stories or anything. They just telling us exactly what they felt happened to them, and that's it. But results are atypical. So again, we're not making any claims that these products will treat or cure any disease. We have a number of cases like that, though. I'm going to share another one with you later in our discussion. And I'm going to also, maybe later in our discussion, tell you about one other case right now that I believe the world is going to be forced to take note of because it involves an advanced breast cancer that It's really just kind of mind-boggling. And the oncologists that are involved in it themselves can't believe what they're seeing. But I'm going to just flash through some of the slides, helping you to just appreciate a little bit about Dr. Prasad's research and what he has uncovered with regard to cancer and why his formula is so effective. And then I'll tell you a little bit about what the formula is. And you may be asking yourself, how can I get that formula? And we'll make sure that you know about that as well. The process of how cancer cells form. It's kind of important to know a little bit about it, but it involves multiple gene defects in normal dividing cells. So the process of cell division is a normal thing, but whenever there's a gene defect that occurs, that can in turn lead to an abnormal cell. When there's a gene defect, that's an abnormal cell. And once an abnormal cell continues to divide, that in effect is cancer and can form into a tumor. The appearance of cancer is 10 years for leukemia and 15 years or more for solid tumors. So that means that something that we were exposed to 10, 15, even 20 years ago may not manifest itself until today. So it could be years before we pay the consequences of an action that we took, and it lead to the formation of an abnormal cell. So here it just talks a little bit again about the same thing. Tumor suppressor genes, differentiating gene, all becomes a cancer cell. And by the way, there's some latest research right now that indicates that a very common treatment that was taken like over the past 2 or 3 years has a component in it that has an impact on the tumor suppressing gene, has an impact on that tumor suppressor gene, which is not good. You don't want to have your tumor suppressor gene turned off. If this oncogene or tumor suppressor gene gets turned off or is affected in any way, shape, or form, that can lead to cancer. Cancer-causing agents can be any number of things. You see smoking stands out, EMF radiation stands out, X-rays stand out on the list, asbestos stands out on the list. So these are things that we are familiar with. But some of the things that we're not so familiar with could actually come from food, like nitrates, components that come from eating barbecue. Yeah, barbecue. Some of the components that come from the heat, the char that's on the barbecue, that actually can be a tumor initiating agent. If a tumor initiating agent comes in contact with a tumor promoting agent, such as estrogen, testosterone, sun exposure, and the other items here, including fatty foods, that's a marriage that you don't want to take place. If a tumor initiating agent comes in contact with a tumor promoting agent, that can lead to cancer. Okay? Again, this is just explaining how cancer works. Oxidative stress is an important part of it, can induce cell mutation. So free radicals and oxidative stress can also lead to cancer. If oxidative damage is not repaired, chronic inflammation occurs. Now, what does all this mean? The food that we eat has free radicals if there's any toxins in it. There's microplastics in our food now. There's GMO, there's pesticides in our food, free radicals. Chemicals in our foods, free radicals. If they're not addressed, if they're not neutralized, they can become an oxidant and can do damage to cells. If they're not neutralized and if the cell's not repaired, chronic inflammation. The manifestation of chronic inflammation, arthritis, inflammation in any parts of the body. It's all a manifestation of chronic inflammation, all precipitated by free radical damage and oxidative stress. Okay? Increased oxidative stress, chronic inflammation initiate in the development of cancer cells. Those things allowed to continue unabated can lead to cancer cells. Not good. All part of Dr. Prasad's research. Proposed differentiating genes hypothesis by Dr. Prasad. He goes on to describe a little bit more in detail of the exact same thing that we were talking about with respect to these genes and how they become carcinogenic. And I promise you, we're not going to do a deep dive into that. But I will do this. I want to share with you one more testimonial that I think also will further help to illustrate the diversity with which Dr. Prasad's hypothesis, his research, his science can make a difference in improving the outcome for you and me, average people. Okay? Now, this gentleman's story, I'm going to try to find it for you. I'm going to set it up for you. It involves two people, actually. It's not just the man himself, even though he starts out telling the story. So I want you to listen, make sure you listen to the entire story, because he goes on to talk about his daughter after he explains things that his doctor told him. Okay? He's going to mention what happened to his daughter as well. He gets a little emotional. And I think it would be good, too, for you to hear Dr. Prasad's own comments afterwards. So I'm going to let the entire thing play so you can hear what Dr. Prasad said, because that story was told on a meeting and presented to Dr. Prasad. He heard the comments, and then he made some comments just afterwards. Okay? So just hang on one second here. And so far, the technology is working, except a little time there I had the little muting issue. Let's see if we can't get this to pop itself up. This man's name is David Bonus. I don't know what his daughter's name was.
Told her about these. I had an operation here on the side of my temple where they had to remove a very aggressive skin cancer known as squamous cell carcinoma. And I noticed I had 3 more moles coming up like a feeder that maybe they had missed.
Mm.
And so, being the good person that Alfreda is, she didn't tell me about it. She came to my home and started telling me all about this micro daily. And I did what she said. Started taking triple doses of the. Matter of fact, I just made me one. Very simple to use. It's like Crystal Light. And I was drinking 3 of those a day and doubling up on the micro daily hydro. And I did that for a little over a month. I had high blood pressure problems. I was able to reconnect with my original doctor. He had all my previous testing and pallets from all the different blood tests, etc. Well, the high blood pressure had already damaged my kidneys. And I went to a different doctor, and she wanted me to do, because of my age, she wanted me to do everything from a colonoscopy to you name it. I said, I'm not doing that. So he said, no, I understand where you're coming from. Let's just start with the blood test and we'll go from there. Your blood pressure medicine's not working. You're 200 over 140. And close to having a stroke, I assume. That's what I've been told. And so he increased the amount of losartan that he was giving me. He said, I want to see you in about a month. And so in that month, I'd been taking micro daily, the regimen that I described. And I had to go to a lab where they took the blood tests, and they did from A to Z all the different things between diabetes and my kidneys and the high blood pressure and yada, yada, yada. Prostate. When I came back to see him, he says, David, I don't know what you're doing, but your prostate, you're in the 1% or less that'll never get prostate cancer. Because I can't detect any more damage on your kidneys. Your high blood pressure is at 130/80. Diabetes, you're never going to have it. Your whatever they measure,
A1C.
A1C, it's off the chart good. It's 5.3.
Wow.
Yes, it was close to maybe a 10.
Yeah.
And in 5 days.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. You called me.
The 3 lesions from the cancer that had come back had fallen off.
Wow.
Right.
He says, I don't know what you're doing, but keep on doing it.
Wow. Wow. That's
Now, I'll tell you another story. Same identical thing. My daughter, stage 3 cancer. She has a lymphoma in her stomach.
wow.
She's on chemo. We're giving her a thing called Enhertu. And I suggested that she start micro daily, et cetera, triple doses. And this past week, she got a phone call. She's been going through this for about 2.5 months. She's on the micro daily for a month. And her doctor told her the exact same thing that I heard from my doctor. I don't know what you're doing, but keep on doing it. There's no trace of cancer. Don't stop doing it. She still has an appointment in Tennessee to see her oncologist because this returned. She had the cancer 4 years ago. And when a person of her age, young, has a reoccurrence, it's a 84% mortality rate.
Yeah.
It's very high. It comes back and it comes back stronger than ever. And there's not she's got 4 kids.
Wow. Wow. David.
So we only wanted to supplement what they were doing with the doctor. It wasn't that this was a cure-all, but it damn sure helped.
Wow.
Yeah.
David, we applaud you. And we're so happy that you got the results that you got. We have to just tell everybody that results are atypical. What happens to one person may or may not happen to you. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. Engage Global, myself, Alfreda, Jeff, we're not making any medical claims. We don't claim that micro daily, hydro, collagen daily will treat or cure any disease. But David, thank you for sharing your story.
I'm so glad you listened.
Wow. That, I don't know, folks. I think if you were paying attention to that story.
Told her about these.
Okay. Didn't get Dr. Prasad's comments on that clip, so I apologize for that. But Dr. Prasad was pretty impressed, and overall just very shocked. When he sees the kinds of results. His hypothesis indicate that these kinds of things would happen. He said that I predicted it. He said, but it's a whole other thing when you see it actually happen in real life, and it just makes him excited. He's a very humble gentleman, and we're very privileged to have access to the research that he does. But the last observational study I want to tell you about that he's been assisting with, and in fact, had him speak directly with this woman's oncologist. This woman was diagnosed with a breast cancer, triple negative breast cancer. It's one of the bad ones, very aggressive. And she decided she wanted to try to treat it naturally. She wasn't opposed to radiation, but she wanted to get the best natural treatments that she could find. So she'd been fighting it herself for quite some time. And then eventually someone told her about us. We did a consultation with her on January the 29th of this year. She began the full suggested protocol about 5 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks later, no, 3 or 4 weeks later, somewhere toward the middle end of the month of February. She got almost immediate improvement. But prior to beginning, the first thing she said on that consultation was, "What do you have for pain?" I said, "Why do you need pain management?" She said, "I have 7 specific, distinct areas of morphine level pain." She said on a scale of 1 to 10, it was like a 12. 7 specific areas that she could pinpoint. And she needed help with the pain management because she didn't want to be on the addictive drugs. And we just told her that, the best thing that we can offer is to just help her try to resolve the problem. But work with her doctor, and the doctor is in the best position to help her with pain management. But we'll just try to help her to bring the problem to a conclusion. And then that should help her with the pain. In 1 week, she went from 7 areas down to just 4 areas of morphine level pain. A week later, maybe 2, she was down to 1 spot where she had morphine level pain. She went to the oncologist who suggested that she get radiation. She agreed to the radiation. And the mass, to make a very long story short, this mass, by the way, was not just a triple negative cancer. It had fungated. Fungating meaning, and I'm not going to show you the pictures, so don't turn your head away. But the mass had exploded pretty much outside of her chest. It was like a football underneath her left breast, 11 inches long and about 2 inches thick, deep, and about 3, 4 inches wide. So she's walking around with this mass literally outside of her body. After she was done with the doctor's treatment, the mass had shrunk considerably. The oncologist, in her own words, said, "I've never seen any response like this before." And fortunately, there was a conversation between her and Dr. Prasad, and that no doubt helped, because now the oncologist could hear from Professor Prasad what the science was behind it. The oncologist expressed interest in reading more about the science, but still she was completely blown away by what she's seen. I've seen this kind of cancer once before, about 10 years ago, and the woman did not survive. There's nothing that we could suggest that made the difference. She didn't make it. But this mass now has gone from 11 inches down to about 2 inches, and it's very flat. The woman who has the problem refers to it as the goner. So she's so happy to see that something like this can happen. And remember, all she was doing was adding supplements to her diet. That's all she was doing. She wasn't doing anything special. She was just helping her body do what it was designed to do. Remember, immunotherapy is what the medical community is invoking now to try to improve. It's an improved treatment, for cancer. But supplements, they just are what they are. I'm putting the disclaimer back up again because we have to just remind you, some may have just come in, some may have just joined on YouTube, that the FDA has not evaluated these statements. Testimonials are anecdotal. Results are atypical. What happens to one person may or may not happen to you. We're not making any claims that any supplements will treat or cure a disease. This presentation is for information and educational purposes only. It is not intended to be a substitute for a visit to your doctor. We recommend that you seek the competent medical advice of professionals that you trust. Now, after having said all of that and having seen all these observational studies, Dr. Prasad's hypothesis can be summed up this way. Cancer cells require two things: glucose and glutamine in order to survive. Now, just pause there for 1 second. That's like you and me. We need food and water to survive. If we do not have food and water, we cannot continue to live. Dr. Prasad says cancer cells require two things: glucose and glutamine in order to survive. Deprive cancer cells these two things, and they cannot continue to advance. Period. That's what's happened in all the cases that we just discussed. His proposed recommendation, in addition to diet recommendations, and he had some extensive diet recommendations. I'm not going to share them here. Anyone who's interested, you can let Joyce know about any of the additional things that Dr. Prasad recommended in previous videos and in writing. He says, in addition to diet recommendations, I suggest to adapt microdaily EMF and probiotics. Now, he says microdaily EMF and probiotics because it's the closest to his patented formula, specifically for improving the outcome of cancer treatments. He's got a patented formula. Microdaily and probiotics is the closest to that. Microdaily EMF would reduce oxidative stress and chronic inflammation. Remember, those two things lead to cancer, as well as number of mutations that are induced by carcinogenic-induced free radicals. Probiotics would restore balance in favor of beneficial bacteria in the gut. In cancer patients, the balance becomes in favor of harmful bacteria, which produces toxic chemicals. So there you have it. That's Dr. Prasad's proposed recommendation. I'll tell you a little bit about the formulas that he just recommended. This is microdaily EMF. Originally, this formula was originally prepared for the United States government, for the military. And he's since advanced it. He's made more improvements to it. That's why it says this is the newest formula. But it has all the original ingredients that were provided for the United States military. But this, in therapeutic doses, is what he's recommending for a person who is trying to get a better outcome with the treatments that their doctor has given them. You can look at the list of ingredients. It doesn't seem to be anything special. In fact, I can't tell you how many medical professionals say to me, oh, this is just vitamins. Basically, you can say that if you don't bother to take the time to look very closely and carefully, and you don't consider the man behind who put this particular specific formulation together. So this is not just a multivitamin that you can go to the store and pick up. This is a very specific, very unique formula. There are some $24 million between Congress and private investors behind the formation of this formula. Okay? So that's one of them. And it does many things. We're not going to go into the details of it, but everything on there has a specific role. I will point one thing out for you, though. You'll notice after vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D, remember the vitamin E we told you about earlier? He's got both of the vitamin E's that are relevant in this formula. The first one, vitamin E succinate. Look at that carefully. You can see it. Succinate. Dr. Prasad is the one who figured out scientifically, just like Newton discovered gravity, Dr. Prasad figured out that vitamin E succinate is cytotoxic to cancer cells. He added that to his formula. He also has the other vitamin E acetate. So that's also in here, the one that most people are accustomed to. And there's 2 or 3 other very powerful components in here that will raise and elevate lymphocytic glutathione levels. And glutathione is the body's most powerful antioxidant. So Dr. Prasad covered all the bases here. This formula arrests free radicals and it deals with oxidative stress and deals with DNA repair caused by low-dose ionized radiation and a whole lot of other things. Most importantly, if you're going to block the uptake of glucose and block the uptake of glutamine, you have nothing to worry about. If that's what your goal is to stop abnormal cells from uptaking glucose and uptaking glutamine, taking this in therapeutic doses, which is 3 times the normal amount, you have nothing to worry about. That's what the woman with the fungating breast cancer did. That's what all of them did. Every single one of the cases that you heard, that's what they did. This is the probiotic that Dr. Prasad recommends as well. And it has all kinds of things in it, lactobacillus and several others, but these are all the heat-resistant and acid-resistant strains of bacteria. So this is the best bacterial combination I have personally ever found. And there's a lot of them out there, but it's the most bang for your buck, and it's the best combination. You don't have to take 50 billion every day like some people recommend, and I used to recommend it, because these are all heat-resistant and acid-resistant strains, and the prebiotics that those probiotics need to feed on. Remember that leads to the production of butyric acid that is also a known cancer fighter that Dr. Prasad discovered. Listen, you're talking about formulations that were produced by the world's first radiation biology PhD and the man who's an expert on radiation, a man who's an expert on cancer and micronutrients. This is his formula right here. That's the combination of the two. You wonder what the prices are? Let's see. Oh, there the prices are. So the retail price of those two together would be $164. Get it on subscription is $110. If you bought them separately, I believe it will be like $118, $119, even if it was just on the for the wholesale price. But because you're buying this in conjunction with the Healthcare Support Association of America, or whoever invited you that's a representative, then you will be able to get that discount price. That's the best way to get it. That's how I purchase it, the same way. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about a couple of other formulas that Dr. Prasad has made. I'm just going to show them to you real quick. He formulated an omega-3 that is unique. What's unique about it is it also has vitamin E, alpha tocopherol. He added it there to stop the omega-3, the fish oils, from turning rancid. Most others turn rancid. Dr. Prasad formulated a patented collagen peptide formula. Collagen peptide is extremely important for maintaining a youthful look, healthy bones, healthy joints, reducing inflammation, reducing swelling, reducing pain, and it blocks beta amyloids. Beta amyloids is what does damage in the brain. It causes memory loss, leads to dementia, leads to Alzheimer's. This blocks that. This also has enzyme inhibitors, so the collagen your body makes, you keep. This is a unique formula. You can't go buy this particular formula anywhere. It's the most advanced in the world because it was produced by Dr. Prasad. He has formulated a CBD that's extracted from hemp. This is really, really good, by the way, for reducing anxiety. So if a person has stress or anxiety in their life, 2 of these every couple of hours in really bad cases is extremely good. We did an entire interview with Dr. Prasad a couple of weeks ago on stress. The month of April is National Stress Awareness Month, and Dr. Prasad covered in detail how it is that CBD from hemp can make a difference, and how this one is CBD isolate. There is nothing else in this product except that. There's no THC and no CBG or CB anything else. Only the most powerful part of the CBD is available, is in this formula right here. And this month there's a unique opportunity with the company that manufactures this. By the way, Dr. Prasad is this chief science officer for the company that manufactures these particular formulas. They have put together what they call the Core 4. And if you decide to subscribe to the Core 4, they will actually give you 1 bottle of the CBD Boost for free. That's this month, because it's April is National Stress Awareness Month. And you can speak to Joyce Morris, who is there on location. For those who are on location in Wildwood, there's an additional opportunity to receive, I think, a children's formula of gummies also along with this package. I believe she has those on location there in Wildwood. So if you do decide that you want to subscribe to the Core 4, this Core 4, by the way, the retail price of the Core 4, if you're wondering about that, it's not on the screen. That's about $340. And if you go on subscription, it's $199. So that's a significant discount right there. Plus you get the free CBD, and plus you're getting the children's gummies. The gummies are pretty good. I don't know why they call it children's gummies. I love them personally. My wife and I fight over them. So if we do have them here, they don't last in our house. But outstanding opportunities to get access to Dr. Prasad's formulas. So here's a screen that just shows you a summary of the basic bundles. The basic bundle is the one I showed you at the beginning. The premium bundle just adds the collagen, and the Core 4 is the most advanced, the biggest bundle, which has everything that Dr. Prasad recommends. There's only 2 additional items that are not mentioned there: digestive boost, brain boost, as also mentioned, and a sleep boost. So there's 3 additional items that are not shown there, but Joyce can give you details on those additional formulas. I use them all, and I think that they're wonderful. They have replaced every other supplement that I have. The only things that I have not replaced is just things that are not comparable to what Dr. Prasad has, but I'm pretty sure over the next couple of years, the man is in his middle 80s, and he's still writing papers, published peer-reviewed papers. He's authoring books, and he's producing brand new formulas well into his 80s. I mean, that's the work of a 30-year-old, but he's doing it still actively at work. So we have time now for a few questions, if there are any. But for those who may be joining us on YouTube, or those who are on Zoom, and if you have to leave, then just get back with the person who invited you at any time. But I'm going to pause the presentation now, interrupt it, and give way now to Joyce to be able to address any questions that some may have. If there is someone on Zoom that has a question, you can also raise your digital hand, and we'll relate that question so that everyone will be able to hear it as well. So thank you very much for your kind attention. So let's go to whatever questions some may have. Yes. Remember, technically, we cannot say that any of these products will treat or cure any disease. Your body will correct what's wrong. Your body is pretty amazing when it comes to that. When you give it the things that it needs, it will correct. High blood pressure is a little bit complicated because it could be rooted in the kidneys, or it could be rooted in something arterial or vascular or something with the heart. So there's a number of things there. So it can resolve quickly, or it can take time. Now, in the case of David Bonus that you heard earlier, his blood pressure problem, he was 200 over 160 or 20 or something like that, I think he said. He resolved relatively quickly. I've seen a lot of folks really, really quickly, they resolve. But others are still trying to resolve, but they're using less blood pressure medications. So it could be that they've got some calcification built up in their arteries that's taking time to settle down. Microdaily has been called by some, nicknamed by one scientist, the poor man's Lipitor. There was a clinical study done on it with the group of firemen, and it cleared up the carotid artery that was beginning to calcify. So yes, my recommendation would be jump on the Core 4. Get on the Core 4, try it for at least 90 days, and you'll see a number of amazing improvements overall. And because you're dealing with acid reflux, make sure that you get the probiotic boost as well. But ask Joyce about the digestive boost. I think I've got a picture of it that I may be able to show that would help you to at least know what it is. So yeah, I did find the picture. So let me just show it to you real quick. This is formulated by Dr. Prasad, and it's outstanding. I mean, this in my opinion, is one of his best formulas as well. We don't feature it all the time, depending on what the subject matter is. So this would also help if you're dealing with things like acid reflux or any kind of stomach or digestive issue. Hope that answered your question. Any other question? Okay. Yeah, you need to get on. Both of you would do well to start with the Core 4. For those who are on Zoom or on YouTube that could not hear the question, she mentioned a couple things. A lot of issues, particularly with the kidney, high blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes for herself, and then IBS for her daughter. We try really hard to be very careful not to step into the realm of where we're making a claim that a supplement can treat or cure a disease. But and I'm being real cautious about how I answer the question and being guarded, because again, this is all being live streamed. So the answer to your question is everything that you heard today about how Dr. Prasad's formulas help the body correct what's wrong. See, every single disease, Dr. Linus Pauling said it, every disease is rooted in a vitamin and mineral deficiency, number one. Number two, all diseases can be traced back to inflammation, which can be traced back to free radicals and oxidative stress. If you get to the root of the problems, the body heals itself. Dr. Prasad's formulas target the root of the problem. Microdaily deals with the free radicals and oxidative stress. Omega-3 improves the body's ability to circulate blood, helps tremendously. The collagen peptide, excellent. What we see happening to our skin on the outside, if it starts to become hard and wrinkly and saggy, that's happening to our organs. Well, the collagen helps correct that because everything is held together by collagen, everything. So when you add collagen peptide, your body puts it in the places that need to be firmed up. It works very, very nicely. And the probiotic boost, phenomenal. Taking it, especially someone who say has IBS, diverticulitis, and things like that, taking all of these components reduces the inflammation and strengthens the tissue that make up those parts of the body and gets rid of the toxins that led to the problem to begin with. So you cannot go wrong with the Core 4. In your case, I would suggest that you not only get the Core 4, but add one additional bottle of the original formula to that. So in other words, you're taking more than just what a healthy 20-year-old would take. The core four, let's see if I can go back to the screen so you can see it. The core four really is what a healthy person should take prophylactically. That's really what that is. If you got a chronic problem, if your budget will allow for it, I recommend adding at least one bottle of the original formula, which is another $50 or $60, I think it is, to the whole program. Stay on it for 90 days. Once you stay on it, get past the 90-day period, you'll see where you are. And if you want to start reducing something, reduce it. But give yourself a night. Most of us are 40, 50, 60, 70 years old. It's going to take a minute before we can correct or roll back some of the issues that we've had in our bodies, because we're trying to prevent. Prevention, an ounce of prevention beats a pound of cure. A pound of cure costs money, real money. So there you have it. But that would be my suggestion for you, ma'am. Thank you for your question. You mentioned seizures. The FDA recommends CBD for seizures. And there's clinical studies on the efficacy of CBD and having benefits for seizures. So I'm trying to think if we have that. Yeah, there's the slide for that. CBD for children, the recommended dose for children having seizures is 750 milligrams. So that's up to half of this entire bottle. Now, you have to go to a doctor, of course, to get a prescription for it. And maybe the insurance will pay for it. I'm not sure. I don't really know that part of the industry. But there's clinical studies that show that CBD is good for seizures. Now, you also have to find out what really is the cause of the seizures. How old is the individual? 67? Yeah, then you could take as much as half the bottle. But I would say for the person who is dealing with the issue, and that's what I would try. I would go with that first of all, and use maybe 6 capsules every 2 or 3 hours, 6 to 8 capsules. That's 200 milligrams. So 8 capsules is 200 milligrams. Do that maybe 3 or 4 times a day. That would be 800 milligrams for the day. This is an adult. So 4 times a day, and the FDA says that is what they recommend for treatment for seizures in children. So that's just a tiny bit higher than the amount that children would get. But if you add to that the core 4, now we're talking about overall improved health. Now we're talking about overall improved health, because something leads to the seizure. Something leads to the brain going into that locked position. The collagen peptide is phenomenal for brain health. The omega-3 is phenomenal for brain health. The microdaily, that microdaily EMF formula crosses the blood-brain barrier, raises glutathione levels in the brain. Now, we didn't watch the video again about EMF radiation, but there's what's happening with 5G. It's making a lot of our health issues worse. It's making us experience things that we perhaps may have resolved themselves by now with normal supplements. But 5G radiation is making everything a little bit more complicated than it otherwise would be. So I would suggest that whoever has that, take advantage of this particular offer right there with the CBD boost, and go on the subscription for the 5 for the core 4, and see what the benefits are. Because most of the time, the times I've seen it in the past, people have seen a reduction in the severity and the intensities of their seizures once they find the right thing that kicks in. Hope that answers your question. It will not. None of these supplements will contraindicate. Her question for everybody else was, would it interfere with seizure medicine that she's already taking? None of Dr. Prasad's formulas contraindicate with any known medicine. Dr. Prasad had to prove to the government that the microdaily did not contraindicate with any known pharmaceutical medications at all. And each time we've asked him the questions, nothing here is toxic. Nothing he recommends will interfere with medication or treatment. Couple of things that we caution against. We caution against a person who's on blood thinners from taking omega-3 because its tendency is to support and reduce coagulation. We caution a person who is maybe being treated for cancer. Dr. Prasad suggests that they not take the collagen peptides while they're being treated for active cancer. Get the core 4, but just set the collagen aside for a while, put that in the refrigerator, and then once the doctor tells them that they no longer have active tumor, then they can start taking the collagen peptide again. And it will do everything that it needs to do. But at the exact same time, just to be honest with you, we've got a lot of folks that take the collagen peptide that are fighting everything that you can think of, including cancers. And they're still getting the same amazing results when they're taking the therapeutic doses of the microdaily. So in answer to your question, no, it will not contraindicate with your other medications. The only problem is you may in time end up needing less of the other medications. So if you consider that to be a conflict, then there it is. Any other question? Okay, so your husband had, I'm just repeating it for the benefit of those on Zoom, that her husband had taken some of the samples. He had constant back pain. And she was sent there to this meeting in Wildwood to make sure that she ordered the product because it helped him so greatly. So thank you for that feedback. Much appreciated, ma'am. Okay, any other? Oh, one more, okay. The question is, what do we recommend for sciatica? He's not taking any medication for it, so he's tough as nails. Most men can't handle a lot of pain. We don't do good with pain. So I go to the dentist, and the first thing I say to the dentist, I just want to warn you right away, I'm severely allergic to pain. My arms are liable to do anything if you make me feel pain. So they make sure that they give me all kinds of stuff to suppress it. So anyway, sciatica is often a mechanical problem. What you're looking at, what I've shown you today, every single thing there will contribute to reduced inflammation. And most of the time, anyone who has back pain or sciatica pain or nerve pain, it usually is because inflammation has reduced the amount of space that the sciatic nerve can exist in. They either need a chiropractic adjustment or they need spatial reduction, something that reduces the inflammation that is around that sciatic that's impinging in on the nerve. The core 4 will help with that. The core 4, along with the CBD blocks pain receptors. If you take it in high enough doses, which is one client just said that she was severe back pain, and she was trying 2 or 3 of them, 4 for the day, I think she took. And when she followed the suggestions to take 6 every 2 hours, changed everything. The pain level started to go down tremendously. So a person can take high doses of the CBD for pain management, and it will help with that. Everything else will reduce the inflammation that causes the problem. Now, if there is a weakness in the bone that is also contributing to the problem, then their bone needs to rebuild a little bit. Well, guess what? Bone is made up of collagen. If there's a weakness in the muscle, in the area that's contributing to the problem, well, guess what? Muscle is made up of collagen. If there's a tendon that's not doing its job quite properly, guess what? Tendons are made up of collagen. So the core four will help. And I just saw in one of our frequently asked questions chat, one client mentioned that she's had sciatic pain for, I forget how long she mentioned. She said, but she doesn't suffer with it since she's been taking Dr. Prasad's formulas. Will it cure it? I can't say that. Oh, but I can tell you my mother-in-law has not complained about her sciatic nerve. She's 93 years old now. I don't hear her complaining about her sciatic nerve pain. I haven't heard her complain about that in a long time. I hear nothing about that. I hear complaints about other things, but I haven't heard any complaints about the sciatic nerve pain. So I hope that helps answer your question. Yes, yep. That concludes the presentation for me. Anyone who has any additional questions that you need to get to me, make sure that you discuss it with Joyce Morris. And Joyce she's got order forms there, and she's got, I think, forms that you can fill out if you're requesting free reports or something like that too. So Joyce will take care of you from here. But I would love to stick around and listen to the rest of the presentation if I can.